The Indianapolis 500 is more than just a race. It's a legend, a cultural icon. For those that compete, a hunger.
This is, and always will be, the greatest spectacle in racing.
I started drinking at 6 a.m. We're here now. I don't know what time it is, but I'm rolling deep, and those cars are going real fast, real fast.
It's 500 for everybody to see. Ready right here.
And hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Indianapolis 500 podcast, a Borg-Warner production. This is your host, Bear-Lents, and we are welcoming you all back to Practice 2 recap from today's Indianapolis 500 practice session leading up to the Indianapolis 500 mile race. And I might have actually fumbled the words before I even got on here. I said good evening and welcome to the Indianapolis 500 podcast, a Borg-Warner production. Again, today there wasn't really much to talk about. A lot of cars had a lot of engine issues, especially near the end of practice. But for the most part, there was just a lot of instability in some of the cars. But I would say overall, it was an Alex Palou, a Conor Daly day. Pretty much everybody will say that Conor Daly and Alex Palou will be the two heavy favorites going into this year's Indianapolis 500. That's going to be the real takeaway from this entire practice today, was because it was just two completely different stories for every side. And I will say that it was very just a complicated practice for some drivers. I knew there were two cars that were already suffering from engine failure right before the end of practice too. So it really does make a lot of sense that there will be drama, but I didn't expect to have this much drama going into it. I loved, like I said yesterday with Catherine Legg, I do like how today she improved a lot, and she improved a lot to the point where she can actually make somewhat of a front run in this race. And I'm just saying that she did quite a good job today, as she finished in 32nd, a spot better than yesterday. But I will say this, Conor Daly and Alex Palou are two of the best drivers on this field in 2026. If you want to put your money on anybody, it's either going to be Conor Daly or Alex Palou. David Malakis, Graham Rahal, Romain Grosjean, all those, Scott Dixon, Scott McLaughlin, all those guys who were ranked 1 through 7 chronologically, had some of the best times of the entire day and the best speeds of the entire day. And not only is that important going into a race like this, but it's also important because we get to see who the real true front runners are. And they really proved themselves today. That makes me more excited for tomorrow, which tomorrow is Thursday. And then you got one more practice on Friday and Saturday. And then it is all about qualifying, which it's all about that and nothing else. And so Conor Daly and Alex Palou are two of the strongest candidates to not only win this year's Indianapolis 500, but they are looking like they are setting themselves apart from all the rest of the field. And you know what's really disappointing is that we don't see guys like Pato or Ward in the front. We don't see enough of that, because I thought he'd have a little more horsepower going into this race. He may shock a lot of people. He was 27th today. 27th. And yesterday he was up a lot. But today he's not. And so you really are seeing the top 6 drivers: Conor Daly, Alex Palou, David Malakis, Graham Rahal, Romain Grosjean, Scott Dixon, and Scott McLaughlin. They are going to be your top runners for the Indianapolis 500. They are going to be the top runners. They are going to be, like in the Kentucky Derby, the top horses, or in the Preakness Stakes, the top horses to run in this race. This is no question. There's no question in my mind that those 6 will be the betting favorites going into this year's Indianapolis 500. And you could also make the case that Joseph Newgarden could make it on that list as well. So really 1 through 8 today are the true categories of drivers that I think are going to do extremely, extremely well going into qualifying. They may not win pole position, but expect them to be in row 2 through 7. But I'm just saying that it's really common to have drivers, especially the 2 rookies today did really well, Kyle Collette and Dennis Hager. They both did really well today, finishing both in 17th and 18th position. Dennis being in 17th, KO being in 18th. And so Stingray Robb, who was a rookie 3 years ago, he finishes in 20th today as well. But seeing them drive today was pretty good. There in total was no real incidents in this race today, as they raced 2,542 laps at this year's day 2 practice, and the conditions were more, I would say, more cloudy than yesterday. Yesterday was just beautiful. Today was beautiful too in my neck of the woods. But really, it just was an overcast day to start, but it got really, really nice around the end. But it really does favors a lot in the favor of traffic and driving, especially when you consider that the temperature was 60 degrees and cloudy. Who knows what the temperatures are going to be like now? It looked like it was going to be 69 and sunny on Memorial Day weekend, but it might still be the case. It might still be cool, and the drivers have to be more prepared for that than they were last year. Last year at the Indy 500, it rained, but it was also 68 degrees and beautiful temperatures outside. But I will say that these conditions helped elevate a lot of cars today. But hopefully, if it were to rain or anything like that, the drivers would be way more prepared for this than they were last year. And so it helped drivers like Palou Ward out a lot. He added solo lap time at one point of 221.409 miles per hour. And Alexander Rossi, the 2016 winner, had the second fastest solo time at 221.392 miles an hour in the number 20 Java House Chevy for Ed Carpenter Racing. And then, of course, there were some no-toe speeds that were slightly slower, including for Kyle Kirkwood, who had a time of 222.062 miles an hour. And all 33 cars entered this with 2,542 laps of incident-free racing and 1,196 laps recorded since opening day. And this all, again, accumulates to what will come tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday before we get into qualifying. And so qualifying is going to be the same time at what's today, noon to 6. And it's going to air live from noon to 4 on Fox Sports 2, and then from 4 to 6 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. Both were p.m., by the way. And it'll also be on IndyCar Radio as well. But again, all leading up to the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. And as I said, there wasn't much to discuss except for the top 8. Now I'm going to read the standings real quick. Top 8 include Conor Daly, Alex Palou at 2, David Malakis at 3, Graham Rahal at 4, Romain Grosjean on 5, Scott Dixon 6, Scott McLaughlin 7, Joseph Newgarden 8th, Santino Ferrucci 9th, Kyle Kirkwood 10th, Marcus Armstrong 11th, Felix Rosenquist 12th, Will Power 13th, Jack Harvey 14th, Rinus VeeKay 15th, Luis Foster 16th, Dennis Hager 17th, Kyle Collette 18th, Marcus Ericsson 19th, Stingray Robb 20th, Alexander Rossi at 21st. Did we just discuss that they had the second lowest toe lap? And then 22nd, Nolan Siegel. 23rd was Helio Castroneves. 24th was Christian Lundgaard. 25th was Ryan Hunter-Reay. 26th was Kitfin Simpson. 27th was Palou Ward. 28th was the rookie Jacob Abel. 29th was Christian Rasmussen. 30th was Takuma Sato. 31st was Mick Schumacher, the rookie. 32nd was Ed Carpenter. And rounding out the field, this was where I got confused. I thought she was not in 32nd, so my correction on that, she was in 33rd. Catherine Legg finishes in 33rd. And so that's the results for today on practice 2 at the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. And so that was pretty much all I did want to cover today, was just those results. We'll be back again tomorrow with another Indianapolis 500 podcast for practice round number 3, and we'll be here all weekend. So don't worry about not touching your dial and not hearing us throughout the week. We're going to really be ramping up the podcast as the weeks go on, with Sunday being the biggest race. And then what we'll do after that, that's a little different than what I promised last year, is that this is a seasonal podcast, which means that we're going to air seasonal episodes as the year goes on. If there's any updates to the track or anything like that, we just post that on here. And so after the entire race is over, we'll have 2 more episodes recapping everything. And then we will have the final episode waving goodbye and wishing you all the best to next year, where many people still listen to the podcast, which I was astounded by. I thought I'd go through the entire season of the IndyCar season, but a lot happened last year, especially around the end of the year, and we couldn't do that. So this year it's just we decided, oh, you know what, it's going to be a good idea if we just make this a seasonal thing. And then we'll run more podcasts on the LaGodiTimes.com website. This, of course, is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can listen to us all the way until race day, which I will tell you one other thing before we go. Just a reminder, if you are going to the race, all tickets for everything are sold out. Indianapolis 500 just submitted. Let me actually look that up real quick. Let me see if I'm right on this. All reserved grandstand seating for this year's Indianapolis 500 are sold out. All 230,000 reserved seats are reserved for people that are sitting in the grandstands, are all sold out as of today. The only tickets that are still available, it was kind of like this last year, which the good news is that it's going to avoid a blackout, hopefully. And fingers crossed on that it avoids a blackout for television areas if you live in, of course, Indianapolis, Bloomington metro area. If you live in that area, the blackout would affect you. But for the most part, it does not sound like that they are going to have a blackout. Actually, it says on here, due to the high demand and sellout, the local television broadcast blackout in central Indiana has been lifted today. So that is good news. We have not, for the first time, heard from a lot from Indy 500 personnel this year. I don't know if that's just because I haven't either been on the internet, but Doug Boyles has really been quiet this year. Last year he was more hopping, but this year he was more really just not as much there. Like here's something. But I may post that onto the podcast later, but it's really an interview with a reporter. And the reporter was Bob Pockrass. I'll play that here in a little bit. But he basically is talking about the blackout. And this is pretty much the same situation that happened last year. The blackout was lifted last year, and they sold every single reserved seat ticket. And which means this year, keep in mind, it's going to be a sellout. It's going to be a sellout. Just keep that in mind if you're going to the race. And so the only tickets that are available are general admission tickets for the infield. And that pretty much is it. And then all garage and pit passes. So if you get a pass for the pit and paddock or pit and garage area, those tickets are sold out. And the approximate tickets of 350,000 people, they're expecting 350,000 people to be at the Indianapolis 500 this year. So that's going to be available. Tickets are going to be available through May 20th at 4 p.m. Even when I was there last year, I will tell you something if you're going to the race this year. The 21st and the 22nd are your last days to pretty much get any sort of ticket arrangements going. because you could get your pit and paddock pass. Like if you want a contest through Prairie Farms or some organization that is handing out tickets this year, keep in mind that the 21st and the 22nd will be the most hectic days of the entire Indy 500 calendar. You have Carb Day Friday, Saturday's Legends Day. Thursday is when everybody's come to town and everybody goes to Speedway and packs the whole place out. Last year, we had to get our pit and paddock passes on Carb Day, and it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. People everywhere, hundreds of thousands of people, all throughout the Motor Speedway. And we had to go inside the ticket office, which they want you a quick in and a quick out for. Make sure you provide ID. Make sure you provide your any photo identification. Make sure you get all of your arranges fare. Get the Indianapolis 500 website. There might be a QR code when you go at the ticket office to scan or get your pit and paddock passes from your company that you were assigned to. Or if you ordered pit and paddock passes, you can pick those up there anytime you want. But keep in mind, there might not be any admission seating except for general admission in the infield. And many people don't. Like I said, last year I sat in the infield, and I will tell you, it was a good experience. But one thing I wish I learned when I went to the race the first time was I wished I had learned more about the tickets before I had gone to the track. Because the company that we worked for and worked with offered us tickets or offered us seating, but we didn't have the tickets and we didn't have the pit and paddock passes with us until we got there to the track. And they provided that. They provided 2 nights at the hotel, and we had to take travel, tickets, and registration all by ourselves. So we had to go to Legends Day all by ourselves, and I had to buy a general admission ticket in the infield because the company that we worked with was 2 days late on getting the Indy 500 tickets because since they were in California, they thought, oh yeah, this isn't going to be a packed event. And then you just think to yourself, how did they not know that? It's the Indianapolis 500, 350,000 people, and you just don't have any tickets for the race. So I had to go buy my own. And once I bought my own, it was all smooth sailing from there. The infield's a good experience, but just keep in mind, if you're not used to people drinking or doing drugs, or you're not an alcoholic yourself, you might want to consider going on Ticketmaster. Actually, let me check that real fast. I don't think there will be any tickets available on Ticketmaster, but we are going to go through that on another podcast in the near future. And that podcast will come out very soon on Friday, where we have this episode. We're going to talk about the Indianapolis. Yep, they only on StubHub. If you check StubHub, we're going to talk a lot about this later. Let's say you get 2 tickets. The good news on StubHub, general admission tickets are still available. They cost around $76. The section of the Northeast Vista 16 now runs a deal for $134. We have no idea if these could still be available, but we know that in the, let's see here, Southwest Vista and the grandstand, there are 2 tickets left. There are 2 tickets left for that deck on the Southwest Vista. And so there's 2 tickets for those. There's basically 2 tickets for a limited amount of sections on turn 4, on turn 3, on turn 2, and on turn 1. But on turn 1, from 4 going into 1, there are still tickets remaining, but all general grandstand seating, and these are people that might have just had their tickets. They might have just had their tickets and sold them online because they thought last minute they didn't want to go. You could sell your tickets on this website. They might not want you to sell tickets days beforehand, but please keep that in mind. There's also 7 tickets left, $234 for the Snake Pit. But all general grandstand seatings, unless seen on a site like StubHub or Ticketmaster, are sold out at this time. So let me check one more website for you guys, because I don't want you guys to be uninformed going into this race, even if I got like one person listening to this. I just want to make sure, because I really do not want anybody else to be confused going into this. And yes, there are tickets that people are selling. And they're selling, let's say you buy 2 tickets. All of the general seating is sold out. But the good news is that if you check SeatGeek and you check StubHub, there are still tickets available on turn 2, on turn 1, on turn 4, and turn 3, and turn 1. So for example, the Tower Terrace 47 tickets for 2 people cost $198. So that means Tower Terrace section 47, which means you might be in row A. So if you buy tickets for Tower Terrace 47 row A, you're sitting in row A of section 47. And I love the Tower Terrace. That was amazing. Now the Pit Road Terrace, that's right by it. You're just sitting on the edge of Pit Row. And then if you want to look at more tickets, let's see. Let's go, for example, the Vista here. You still have some general admission viewing mounds, which cost $75. They are the cheapest option for tickets at this entire event. The South Vista 21, that means you're in row BB, which means you're sitting in row BB, section 21 on the South Vista. That's $176. The highest tickets that I'm seeing on here, the highest one on here is the Tower Suite 2 tickets. You could get 1 ticket or 4 tickets for, get this, $2,721. And make sure you do your, and this is your last minute tip for anybody that's going to the race this year, make sure that you do your financing and keep that well checked before you go there to the Indianapolis 500. It's very important you do that. It's important you do that for various reasons, because you don't want to go to the hotel and then go to the track and then buy some food and buy some drinks and buy some clothes and buy some souvenirs and not have anything left. They don't accept free passes at the Indy 500, so please be aware of that as well. And I don't want any of you to get stuck or lost like we did the first time when I went to the Indianapolis 500. And so we're just here helping you guys, because I went last year. It was my first time ever going. And if this is your first time ever going, you're going to have a blast. You're going to love it. If you love the spectacle of racing, if you love racing in general, or you love Kurt Signetti, or you just want to see the event, this is a golden opportunity for you. A golden opportunity, because this is a moment you will never forget for the rest of your life. And many people do not understand when they go there that, yes, it's a big event, but people, once you're back home again in Indiana, and once you see the flyover, and once you see the cars on the track, it really is a memorable experience. It's very memorable, and I loved my time there. Like I told my mom earlier today, I said we really loved our time there, and we really enjoyed ourselves at our first ever Indy 500. She, unfortunately, and my sister, unfortunately, were not able to actually go to the actual race, but they were able to go to Legends Day and see some cars on the track, which was really nice and everything. But it really seemed like an event that she couldn't handle, so we really had to act accordingly. And so and you're going to get overwhelmed there too. Expect that as well. Don't expect this to always be an easy trip. It might be hard if you have anxiety or if you got major issues with alcohol or drugs. This is not something you want to go to, but please be responsible if you do go. And be responsible yourself, be responsible for your family, and be responsible for everybody in your group. Stay together. You don't want to get lost. And at the end of the race, they may have some bikes or people that want to take you back home. If you feel comfortable with that, they charge a little bit. They are going to take you back to your hotel. And so, also, there might be vouchers there as well. Do not fall for the vouchers. Do not fall for the vouchers. Of course, there's people holding signs wanting Indy 500 tickets they can resell on eBay and get some type of bank off of it or go themselves. But I wouldn't recommend it. They are mainly African American, and some of them are not going to be very friendly, and some might be Hispanic as well. Still watch out for those. My mom was scared of those last year, and we didn't fall for it, thank God. But we were never going to fall for something like that. But it's really something that you have to take important care for before you go to the Indy 500. That stuff like that could happen. And just remember, big thing, just have fun. That's the big thing. Just have fun. The whole day is meant to enjoy yourself and to really enjoy the greatest spectacle in racing. Whether you're in the snake pit or in the grandstands watching the race, there's a lot to look forward to with the 110th running of the Indy 500 on America's 250th birthday. We want to thank you so much for listening to today's Practice 2 recap of the Indianapolis 500 podcast, the Borg Warner production. You can find us anywhere on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcast. I will see you all tomorrow for day 3 of practice sessions, and we'll go through betting and more information about the Indy 500 soon. And let's go racing. Goodbye, everyone.